Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari
Yodanandana Braja Janarandana
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yodanandana Braja Janarandana
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Gopi Jannavalabha Giridharadhari
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari
Jaya Gopi Jannavalabha Giridharadhari
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari
Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yamuna Tiravanachari
Jamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamuna Tiravanachari
Jamuna Tira Vanachari
Radha Madhava Kunjabihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Gopi Jannavalabha Giridharadhari
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari
Yashodanandana Braja Janarandana
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yamuna Tiravanachari
Jamuna Tira Vanachari
Radha Madhava Kunjabihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Prabhu, we can't hear you now. No, I can't hear. Can you hear Radha Vinod Prabhu? No, Mataji can't
No,
hear
Prabhuji.
also.
No.
No. You might have to log out and log in, something like that. I can't. Very, yeah, we can hear you, but very, very low. Suddenly we lost. You are unmuted now, but if you can, sorry, you are muted. No, but still it's the same. No, we can't hear you. I can't hear. Radha Vinod? No.
No.
Yeah, he's Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, great. So, Prabhu, can I assume that I'm on shared view? Shared.
Yeah. Okay. You got the rights now. I'm giving.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. You can share.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. So, welcome everybody on a Saturday morning. It's a bit dull today compared to the last week or so, but I'm very privileged to be amongst the Vaishnavas and have an opportunity to speak about Pṛthu Mahārāja. So I'll just do the invocation and then we can start. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Om Ikam Prandashya Gyam Dilashmakya Chakshuryam Tamina Taspuryam Namo Namo Vishnu Daya Spaya Mitve Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Vyayine Devasi Sanyavadi Prastatas. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So this pastime of Pṛthu Mahārāja, it actually covers about 10 chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam in fourth canto. So it's quite a long and for the speaker, I think quite a challenging subject matter, as so much to cover. So I will try my best within an hour to cover as much as I can by the grace of the Vaishnavas. So where should I start? So I will first talk about how the appearance of Pṛthu Mahārāja came around. So King Anga, he was a very saintly king. And the people in his kingdom were extremely good citizens, and he had great priestly advisors. However, King Anga, he was unable to have a son. And because of the inability to have a son, he was always very unhappy. And sometimes we can see that parents who can't have children also feel somewhat displeased. So similarly, Anga Maharaj, he was very concerned about the future of the kingdom and subsequently wanted a son. So the priest, they advised King Anga that he should do an Asmaveda sacrifice. And so many preparations were made, and the Asmaveda sacrifice had proceeded. However, once the demigods were called to take part in the sacrifice, no one would turn up. None of the demigods would appear in the sacrifice. And the priests, they were really surprised. And they tried to find out, under what fault are these demigods not appearing. So subsequently, can you still hear me? Hare Krishna. So subsequently, the priests, they couldn't find a fault, and subsequently they decided that if for some reason, due to some sinful activity in the past of the king, the demigods weren't willing to come, then they would go to Lord Vishnu. For Lord Vishnu is always very kind, and through the sacrifice to Lord Vishnu, they would proceed with the sacrifice and hopefully get the fruits of that sacrifice. So then another sacrifice was done. And in that sacrifice, a personality with a golden garland, wearing a white robe, appeared. Yes, with a pot of boiled rice. And this boiled rice was then taken and given to King Anga's queen, Sunita, who then took this boiled rice, and at some point later, a son was conceived, and that son, you all know, is King Vina. Now, from a young age, Vina was a very cruel boy. He would kill animals indiscriminately, and he would actually torture them. And all the people became very much concerned, especially his own age group. They were very fearful of King Vina because he was actually very cruel-hearted. So, in this way, King Anga, he tried many ways to reform his son. And even with so much effort, he could not actually change the character of his son. And it explained that King Vina, he took after his maternal grandfather, who was actually Mrityu, the personality of death. And subsequently, he had this characteristic of being cruel. So, King Vina started to think that it's actually better not to have a bad son than to have a son. So here's a plight that he spent so much anxiety trying to get a son. And once he received a son, because of a bad son, he felt he was very unfortunate to have such a son. So for some time, King Vina, he was very, how shall I say, he was very upset. And he started to feel so much disappointment with his son. And some time went by, and then the king had a realization that actually, because of his bad son, he would become more detached from family life. So, Krishna, he's always kind. In all circumstances, a Vaishnava can see a positive amongst the negative. So King Anga, he started to celebrate that actually this was a boon, that this bad son was making him so detached from family life. And as his son grew up, the king, Anga, started to become more and more detached and left the kingdom for the forest. And the people and the priests, they searched for King Anga everywhere, but they couldn't find him. And they were so saddened by his disappearance. So, as is normal, that without the head of state, the kingdom started to fill with rogues and thieves. And the people were so much harassed. So the Brahmana priests, they were thinking what to do. That in the absence of King Anga and a noble king, there's so much disruption and difficulties in the kingdom. So they discussed amongst themselves and thought that actually maybe it's an idea to put King Vina on the throne, because at least then the rogues and thieves will stop their activity. Because of the boldness and powerful nature of King Vina and his cruel nature, the thieves and rogues were very fearful of him. So here's another example of a cruel person. He's able to put fear in the hearts of those who are like himself. Hare Krishna. So like this, King Vina, he became very puffed up, and he then himself started to harass the citizens. And he became so puffed up that he felt that he was worshipable. So anyway, this went on for some time, and the priests they again had a discussion saying what to do. This King Vina, he is so mean, so cruel. He's causing so much havoc, and he also started to stop any sacrifices in the kingdom. Yes, in effect, he was trying to stop any type of god worship. So the priests became extremely worried because, as you know, that it is duty of the Brahmanas to select a king who will bring the people good fortune by teaching them how to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the priests, they went to see King Vina, to try and persuade him to be a better king. And after some discussion with King Vina, King Vina started to insult the priests, that instead of worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, yes, they were misguided and in the mode of ignorance, that they should actually worship him because he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when they heard that King Vina had no shame, that he was even willing to insult the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they decided to kill him. So with a few mantras, they killed King Vina immediately. And Sunitha, she became very much aggrieved, having lost her son. And she had some ability with some herbs and mantras to preserve the body. So then the saintly Brahmanas, they still, as with some time later, the problem of the rogues and thieves rose again. So you can see that the life of the Brahmanas was not very peaceful because they were constantly having to consider their responsibilities for the citizens. So like this, they came together and decided that the semen in the body of King Vina was very powerful, and it came from a very noble heritage. And subsequently, they would churn the body of King Vina. And by churning the body of King Vina, with special mantras and the art of mysticism, they actually churned the thigh of King Vina to extract the sinful deeds of King Vina. And a personality was created called Bakula. And this Bakula, he was a very small, ugly-looking, black living entity. And he appeared, but he was very humble and meek. And he was granted to look after a type of people called Nasidas. And thereafter, the body became pure as all the sinful reactions were extracted. And the churning of the body of King Vina continued. And at this point, we now reach chapter 15. And I will share the screen. Can we see that?
Yes, Prabhu, we can see.
Hare Krishna. So, sorry, I'm just going to open my notes. So if we can have some participation, please. If someone would like to read the first 4.
I'll start, Prabhu. I'll begin, and others can get ready. So I will begin.
Hare Krishna.
So the chapter entitles King Pṛthu's Appearance and Coronation. Text 1. The great sage Maitreya continued, "My dear Vidura, thus the Brahmanas and the great sages again churned the 2 arms of King Vena's dead body. As a result, a male and a female couple came out of his arms." Text 2. The great sages were highly learned in Vedic knowledge. When they saw the male and female born of the arms of Vena's body, they were very pleased, for they could understand that the couple was an expansion of a plenary portion of Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The great sages said, "The male is a plenary expansion of the power of Lord Vishnu, who maintains entire universe, and the female is a plenary expansion of Goddess of Fortune, who is never separated from the Lord." Text 4. Of the 2, the male will be able to expand his reputation throughout the world. His name will be Pṛthu. Indeed, he will be the first among kings. So next one, please.
So if we can just stop there.
Okay, sorry.
And read the purport to text to verse 4. So it's quite interesting here that in the purport of Srila Prabhupada, he shares with us some very interesting knowledge. So the purport says there are different types of incarnations of the Supreme Personality Godhead. In the Shastra, it is said that Garud, the carrier of Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva, and Ananta are all very powerful incarnations of the Brahman feature of the Lord. Similarly, Sachipati or Indra, the king of heaven, is an incarnation of the lusty feature of the Lord. Anirudh is an incarnation of the Lord's mind. Similarly, King Pṛthu is an incarnation of the ruling force of the Lord. Thus, the saintly persons and the great sages predicted future activities of King Pṛthu, who was already explained as a partial incarnation of a plenary expansion of the Lord. So, King Pṛthu, yes, because he was going to rule the kingdom, the Lord expanded or incarnated his ruling force of the Lord, yes, for that position. Sorry that my PC is a bit slow today for some reason. And Prabhupada here very nicely shares that Lord Shiva, Ananta, and Garud are expansions or incarnations of the Brahman feature of the Supreme Lord, which is very interesting that Lord Shiva, who is controlling the mode of ignorance, is also the Lord of the Brahman feature, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and stops the Mayavedis from entering the Vaikuntha planets. So we will then move to read text. So if we carry on from 5 to text 10, if anybody like.
Meena Mataji, would you like to do it?
Yes, thank you, Prabhu. The female has such beautiful teeth and beautiful qualities that she will actually beautify the ornaments she wears. Her name will be Archi. In the future, she will accept King Pṛthu as her husband. In the form of King Pṛthu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has appeared through a part of his potency to protect the people of the world. The goddess of fortune is the constant companion of the Lord, and therefore she has incarnated partially as Archi to become King Pṛthu's queen. The great sage Maitreya continued, My dear Viduraji, praised and glorified King Pṛthu, and the great singers of Gandharva Loka chanted his glories. The inhabitants of Siddhaloka showered flowers, and the beautiful women in the heavenly planets danced in ecstasy. Conch shells, bugles, drums, and kettle drums vibrated in outer space. Great sages, forefathers, and personalities from the heavenly planets all came to Earth from various planetary systems. Lord Brahma, the master of the entire universe, arrived there accompanied by all the demigods and their chiefs. Arrived there accompanied by all the demigods and their chiefs. Seeing the lines of Lord Vishnu's palm on King Pṛthu's right hand and impressions of lotus flowers on the soles of his feet, Lord Brahma could understand that King Pṛthu was a partial representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One whose palm bears the sign of a disc as well as other such lines should be considered a partial representation or incarnation of the Supreme Lord. Hare Krishna.
Very much, Mataji. So we can see here that an incarnation of the Lord, yes, he can be distinguished, and personalities like Lord Brahma, they help us understand how to recognize, yes, a person who is an incarnation of the Lord. And there are some special markings on the body, and of course there are scriptures that also stipulate the time and place such a person will be born. So for those who are sometimes bewildered by there's so many self-pronounced gods, especially in India, can understand here that it is not an easy matter to decide who is an incarnation of the Lord, but authority is required to understand who's a representation of God and who is not. So I thought it was nice to share that due to our good fortune to read the Srimad Bhagavatam, we can actually understand what is a proper representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If we then now move to text 22. So what happens is that between now from the text 11 right the way through text 22, the demigods come to see King Pṛthu and offer all kinds of different gifts, yes, which are powerful gifts and blessings, yes, to actually welcome King Pṛthu into this world. And due to time, we won't be able to go through all the different verses, but I will try and cover as many as we can. So if we go to 21. So what I'd like to read from 21 to 26.
Radha Vinod Prabhu.
Yes, shall I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, please, Prabhuji.
From 21, right?
Please, yes. To
21 to 25, yeah.
26 to 26.
Okay. Thus, when the greatly powerful King Pṛthu, the son of Veena, saw the professionals before him, to congratulate them, he smiled, and with the gravity of the vibrating sounds of clouds, he spoke as follows. King Pṛthu said, O gentle Suta, Magadha and other devotee offering prayers, the qualities of which you have spoken are not distinct in me. Why then should you praise me for all these qualities when I do not shelter these features? I do not wish for these words meant for me to go in vain, but it is better that he offer to someone else. O gentle reciters, offer such prayers in due course of time, when the qualities of which you have spoken actually manifest themselves in me. The gentle who offer prayers to Supreme Personality of Godhead do not attribute such qualities to a human being who does not actually have them. How could an intelligent man, competent enough to possess such exalted qualities, allow his followers to praise him if he did not actually have them? Praising a man by saying that if he were educated, he might have become a great scholar or great personality is nothing but a process of cheating. A foolish person who agrees to accept such praise does not know that such words simply insult him. As a person with a sense of honor and magnanimity does not like to hear about his abominable actions. A person who is a very famous and powerful does not like to hear himself praised. King Pṛthu continued, my dear devotees, headed by Suta, headed by the Suta, just now I am not very famous for my personal activities because I have not done anything praiseworthy you could glorify. Therefore, how could I engage you in praising my activities exactly like children?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, thank you very much. So here, yes, we see a distinct quality of Pṛthu Mahārāja, that he is a pure devotee of the Lord, as well as an incarnation, and he did not want to hear glorification of his qualities when actually none had been exhibited. And Srila Prabhupada, he shares in the purport that such is the quality of a Vaishnava, that they do not accept such praises without there being deeds to substantiate them. And even then, they're not so attached to such praise. Whereas those who are actually don't deserve the praise, they still wish to take praise. So Prabhupada, he refers here to all these pseudo incarnations who have so many followers, and they allow the followers to praise them so much in so many ways, and yet they're not worthy of such praise. This is a distinction between those who are genuine and those who are not. So if we move to the next chapter. Do I have to take it off first, share, to change the chapter, which I'm surprised. Let me just do that. Technology is always a challenge.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, so if we then move to chapter 16, which is praises of King Pṛthu by the professional reciters. And if someone would like to read from text 2 to text 7.
Hare Krishna. So anyone would like to read from text 2 to 7, isn't it? Text 7.
Yes.
2 to 7.
Hare Krishna, I can read.
Yeah, please.
Reciters continued. Dear King, you are a direct incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu. By his causeless mercy, you have descended to this earth. Therefore, it is not possible for us to actually glorify your exalted activities. Although you have appeared through the body of King Vena, even great orators, speakers, and like Lord Brahma and the other demigods, cannot exactly describe the glorious activities of your lordship. Although we are unable to glorify you adequately, we nonetheless have a transcendental taste for glorifying your activities. We shall try to glorify you according to the instructions received from the authoritative sages and scholars. Whatever we speak, however, is always inadequate and very insignificant. Dear King, because you are a direct incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all your activities are liberal and ever laudable. This King, Mahārāja Pṛthu, is the best among those who are following religious principles. As such, he will engage everyone in the pursuit of religious principles and give those principles all protection. He will also be a great chastiser to the irreligious and the atheistic. This king alone, in his own body, will be able in due course of time to maintain all living entities and keep them in a pleasant condition by manifesting himself as different demigods to perform various departmental activities. Thus he will maintain the upper planetary system by inducing the population to perform Vedic sacrifices. In due course of time he will maintain this earthly planet by discharging proper rainfall. This King Pṛthu will be as powerful as the sun god, and just as the sun god equally distributes his sunshine to everyone, King Pṛthu will distribute his mercy equally. Similarly, just as the sun god evaporates water for 8 months, and during the rainy season returns it profusely, this king will also take taxes from the citizens, and return these monies in times of need. This King Pṛthu will be very, very kind to all citizens. Even though a poor person may trample over the king's head by violating the rules and regulations, the king, out of his causeless mercy, will be forgetful and forgiving. As a protector of the world, he will be tolerant as the earth itself.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Hare Krishna.
So Prabhupada, he explains in these verses that by glorifying the Lord with exalted verses, one becomes purified, even if done inadequately. Our duty is to make the attempt in order to purify ourselves according to our ability, which is what Prahlad Mahārāja suggests. If we are serious and sincere devotees, the Lord will give us the intelligence to offer prayers properly. Which is very, very nice that the Lord is always instructing his devotee from within. And even if one does not have the ability, the Lord from within gives him the intelligence of how to offer prayers nicely for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In verse 3, Prabhupada writes in the purport, we should glorify the Lord in accordance with Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Devotional service is a real method for by devotional service one can satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead with just a few words. So here Prabhupada he says something very, very important, and I think it isn't some good advice but difficult to execute. That sometimes we're invited to all kinds of programs where our relatives and friends and the community may ask us to come to a program where there are professional reciters. And Srila Prabhupada, he mentions very strongly that the Lord does not care for professional reciters who do not have devotional service. And subsequently, he would prefer just a few words from a devotee with devotional service. So again, Prabhupada is instructing us that the basis to pleasing the Lord is devotional service. It is very nicely said here as well that the duty of the king or head of government is to ensure that the people strictly follow religious life in verse 4. And something that heads of government today have forgotten, that it is the duty of the king and the heads of government to actually understand what is the real governance of people. That is to help them, to continue their path back to Godhead. So in verse 5, Prabhupada here shares that proper rainfall comes from yajna, sacrifices. And from such sacrifices, rainfall comes, which then produces grains, that allow people to be satisfied. And Prabhupada, he makes the comment in verse 5 where he says that the best of all sacrifices is the Sankirtan Yajna. Sharinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. And then in verse 6, Prabhupada, he explains how tax revenue should be used, that tax revenue should be extracted from the people and then used in difficult times. And we see that nowadays that the taxes of the people are actually squandered in all kinds of activities, and the governments simply take more debt by printing more money to actually maintain the state. In text 7, Prabhupada, he writes that the duty of the king is to look after the comfort of the citizens, even at the cost of his own personal convenience. Unfair taxation makes the people dishonest. So we can now see that there is so much extraction of taxes that there are so many dishonest people, including in the fact that the government also is not following religious principles. So if we then now read from 10 through to 20.
Sorry, text 10 to 23?
To 20, 20.
10 to 20. Anyone is willing? Madhavi Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna?
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Shall I read, Prabhuji? Shall I read? Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah, the reciters continued, no one will be able to understand the policies the king will follow. His activities will also be very confidential, and it will not be possible for anyone to know how he will make every activity successful. His treasury will always remain unknown to everyone. He will be the reservoir of unlimited glories and good qualities, and his position will be maintained and covered just as Varuna, the deity of the seas, is covered all around by water. Text 11. King Pṛthu was born of the dead body of King Veena, as fire is produced from arani wood. The King Pṛthu will always remain just like fire. and his enemies will not be able to approach him. Indeed, he will be unbearable to his enemies, for although staying very near him, they will never be able to approach him, but will have to remain as if far away. No one will be able to overcome the strength of King Pṛthu. Text 12. King Pṛthu will be able to see all the internal and external activities of every one of his citizens. Still, no one will be able to know his system of epinose, and he himself will remain natural regarding all matters of glorification or vilification paid to him. He will be exactly like air, the life force within the body, which is exhibited internally and externally, but is always natural to all affairs. Text 13. Since this king will always remain on the path of piety, he will be natural to both his son and the son of his enemy. If the son of his enemy is not punishable, he will not punish him. But if his son is punishable, he will immediately punish him. Text 14. Just as the sun god expands his shining rays up to the Arctic region without independence, the influence of King Pṛthu will cover all tracts of land up to the Arctic region and will remain undisturbed as long as he lives. Text 15. The king will please everyone by his practical activities, and all of his citizens will remain very satisfied. Because of these, citizens will take great satisfaction in accepting him as their ruling king. Text 16. The king will be firmly determined and always situated in truth. He will be a lover of the Brahminical culture and will render all service to old men and give shelter to all surrendered souls. Giving respect to all, he will always be merciful to the poor and innocent. Text 17. The king will respect all women as if they were his own mother, and he will treat his own wife as the other half of his body. He will be just like an affectionate father to his citizens, and he will treat himself as the most obedient servant of the devotees who always preach the glories of the Lord. Text 18. The king will consider all embodied living entities as dear as his own self, and he will always be increasing the pleasures of his friends. He will intimately associate with liberated persons, and he will be a chastising hand to all impious persons. Text 19. The king is the master of the three worlds, and he is directly empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is without change, and he is an incarnation of the Supreme known as a Sakyavesha Avatara. Being a liberated soul and completely learned, he sees all material varieties as meaningless because their basic principle is lenience. Text 20. The king, being uninquiringly powerful and heroic, will have no competitor. He will travel around the globe on his victorious chariot, holding his non-invincible bow in his hand and appearing exactly like the sun, which rotates in its own orbit from the south. Text 21. When the king travels all over the world, other kings as well as the demigods will offer him all kinds of presentations. Their queens will also consider him the original king, who carries in his hands two emblems of club and disc, and will sing of his fame, for he will be as repeatable as the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Thank you very much, Mataji. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Hare Krishna.
As you can see, the qualities of King Pṛthu are just unlimited. They're rolling off the professional reciters. Yes, so nicely. So in verse 10, Srila Prabhupada, he explains that King Pṛthu kept his treasury a secret, and everyone should live that way, that wherever we have, we should not let anybody else know, because other people will become envious. And also because it should be kept for times for difficult times. and for good causes, it's best that they don't know what's in our treasury. I thought that was very nice for Prabhupada to share that, because sometimes people are prone to share what their incomes are.
I made a note of that point, Prabhu. Yeah.
Yes. So you can remember, Puji, when I was treasurer.
Yeah.
Yes, I was okay. Yes. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So in verse 18, King Pṛthu, Prabhupada explains that the duty of the king, yes, would mean that all 8,400,000 species, yes, King Pṛthu would always associate. So he said, so he must treat all the living beings as he would treat himself, all 8,400,000 species. And interestingly, like King Pṛthu, he would always associate with liberated persons. And that is the nature of Vaishnava, that they are so friendly and they treat everyone, yes, above themselves. And in 20, Srila Prabhupada explains that a king or government head must be so competent to rule over the state that the citizens will freely worship him as God in human form. So that is the nature of worship, that it should command respect by the deeds of the leader. So if we then go to verse 23, I'll read this one because it's just one verse. When the lion travels in the forest with its tails turned upwards, all meaner animals hide themselves. Similarly, when King Pṛthu would travel over his kingdom and vibrate the string of his bow, which is made of horns of goats and bulls and is irresistible in battle, all demoniac rogues and thieves will hide themselves in all directions. So in here, Prabhupada, he gives a nice purport, which I will share very quickly. It is very appropriate to compare a powerful king like Pṛthu to a lion. In India, Kshatriya kings are still called Singh, which means lion, unless rogues, thieves, and other demoniac people in a state are afraid of the executive head, who rules the kingdom with a strong hand. There cannot be peace or prosperity in the state. Thus, it is most regrettable when a woman becomes the executive head instead of a lion-like king. In such a situation, people are considered very unfortunate. So here, yes, the king, whoever takes that position or the head of state, he must have prowess, that the rogues and thieves and demoniac people will be afraid of him, so that there is peace in the kingdom, and does not recommend that ladies take up that position, because that's not their nature to be so lion-like. So on the last verse, no one will be able to disobey the order of Pṛthu Mahārāja. After conquering the world, he will completely eradicate the threefold miseries of the citizens. Then he will be recognized all over the world. At that time, both the Suryas and the Suryas will undoubtedly glorify these magnanimous activities. Glorify his magnanimous activities. In that, Srila Prabhupada, he shares a very nice few words. He says, ambition to rule the world means to eradicate completely the threefold miseries of the citizens. And one should not rule for political or diplomatic considerations. So here, Prabhupada is setting, or the Shastras set the standard. The standard is that the threefold miseries of the people should be removed by them being engaged in devotional service or in religious activities. So if we move to chapter 17. So chapter 17 is Mahārāja Pṛthu becomes angry at the earth. So would someone like to read verses 1 to 9? Hare Krishna, is everybody there?
Hare Krishna, yeah, sure.
Both?
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Nice
Yes.
to hear you.
Okay. The great sage Maitreya continued. In this way, the reciters who were glorifying Maharaj Pṛthu readily described his qualities and chivalrous activities. At the end, Maharaj Pṛthu offered them various presentations with all due respect and worshipped them adequately. King Pṛthu, thus satisfied, and offered all respect to all the leaders of the Brahmanas and other castes, to his servants, to his ministers, and to the priests, citizens, general countrymen, people from other communities, admirers, and others, and thus they all became happy. Vidura inquired from the great sage Maitreya, "My dear Brahmana, since Mother Earth can appear in different shapes, why did she take the shape of a cow? And when King Pṛthu milked her, who became the calf and what was the milking pot? The surface of the earth is by nature low in some places and high in others. How did King Pṛthu level the surface of the earth? And why did the king of heaven Indra steal the horse meant for the sacrifice? The great saintly king Maharaj Pṛthu received knowledge from Sanat Kumara, who was the greatest Vedic scholar, after receiving knowledge to be applied practically in his life. And how did the saintly king attain his desired destination? Pṛthu Maharaj was a powerful incarnation of Lord Krishna's potencies. Consequently, any narration concerning his activities is surely very pleasing to hear, and it produces all good fortune. As far as I am concerned, I am always your devotee as well as a devotee of the Lord, who is known as Adokshaja. Please therefore narrate all the stories of King Pṛthu, who in the form of the son of King Vena milked the cow-shaped earth. Sutta Goswami continued, when Vidura became inspired to hear of the activities of Lord Krishna in his various incarnations, Maitreya, also being inspired and being very pleased with Vidura, began to praise him. Then Maitreya spoke as follows. The great sage Maitreya continued, "My dear Vidura, at the time King Pṛthu was enthroned by the great sages and Brahmanas and declared to be the protector of the citizens, there was a scarcity of food grains. The citizens actually became skinny due to starvation. Therefore they became the king. They came before the king and informed him of their real situation."
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you very much. So if we go to text 8, Prabhupada, he gives a very nice purport. It says, talks of Krishna Katha, or topics about Lord Krishna, or his incarnations, is spiritually so inspiring that the reciter and the hearer are never exhausted. That is the nature of spiritual talks. We've actually seen that one can never become satiated by hearing the conversations between Vidura and Maitreya. Both of them are devotees, and the more Vidura inquires, the more Maitreya is encouraged to speak. A symptom of spiritual talk is that no one feels tired. Thus, upon hearing the question of Vidura, the great sage Maitreya did not feel disgusted, but rather felt encouraged to speak at great length. So good job we have these classes, Prabhu, so we can all be energetic. Hare Krishna. So in verse 9, Srila Prabhupada, he speaks extensively about the national system, and that the kings were appointed by the Brahmanas, and the kings would provide citizens protection, and the Vaishyas would protect cows and produce food grains, and the Shudras would serve the other three castes. So it's important that society becomes divided into the Varna and Ashram, and subsequently that will bring more peace for the populace. This was the plan of Mahārāja Pṛthu. We then move to verses 18 to 25, sorry, verses 18 to 27. If there's any volunteers, please.
Shall I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, please, Mataji.
19 to 25.
18, Mataji. 18 to
18.
20.
Addressing the great opulent King Pṛthu as a knower of religious principles and shelter of the surrendered, she said, "Please save me. You are the protector of all living entities. Now you are situated as the king of this planet." The cow-shaped earth continued to appeal to the king. "I am very poor and have not committed any sinful activities. I do not know why you want to kill me. Since you are supposed to be the knower of all religious principles, why are you so envious of me? And why are you so anxious to kill a woman? Even if a woman does commit some sinful activity, no one should place his hand upon her. And what to speak of you, dear king? You are so merciful. You are a protector and you are affectionate to the poor." The cow-shaped earth continued, "My dear king, I'm just like a strong boat, and all the paraphernalia of the world is standing upon me. If you break me to pieces, how can you protect yourself and your subjects from drowning?" King Pṛthu replied to the earthly planet, "My dear earth, you have disobeyed my orders and rulings. In the form of a demigod, you accepted your share of the yajnas we performed, but in return, you have not produced sufficient food grains. For this reason, I must kill you." Although you are eating green grass every day, you are not filling your milk bags so we can utilize your milk. Since you are willfully committing offenses, it cannot be said that you are not punishable due to your assuming the form of a cow. You are so lost your intelligence that despite my orders, you do not deliver the seeds of herbs and grains formerly created by Brahma and now hidden within yourself. Now, with the help of my arrows, I shall cut you to pieces and with your flesh satisfy the hunger-stricken citizens who are now crying for the want of grains. Thus I shall satisfy the crying citizens of my kingdom. Shall I carry on from you? Any cruel person, be he a man, woman, or impotent eunuch, who is only interested in his personal maintenance and has no compassion for other living entities, may be killed by the king. Such killing can never be considered actual killing. Sorry, Prabhuji, waiting for 27 to appear.
I know the problem with technology, Mataji.
Yeah. You are very much puffed up with pride and have become almost insane. Presently, you have assumed the form of a cow by your mystic powers. Nonetheless, I shall cut you into small pieces like grain, and I will uphold the entire population by my personal mystic powers.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Thank you.
So Mahārāja Pṛthu, he's very angry with Mother Earth, and she ran everywhere, to try and escape him. But Pṛthu Mahārāja was very determined, and he followed her all around the universe. And then, as we started to read these verses, that Mother Earth, she was very intelligent, and she was trying to present arguments that she's a cow, and it's sinful to kill a cow, and that she's a woman, and the woman is, shouldn't be killed, even if she commits sinful activity, and so on and so forth. And despite all that, because Pṛthu Mahārāja was supremely intelligent and understood how to administer law, he still broke her arguments. So in verse 18, yes, after she sees that she cannot pacify King Pṛthu, she actually tries to take shelter of him, so that he can be her protector. And we can then see that in verse 25, Srila Prabhupada explains that when there is insufficient food grains, then that is the only time that one should be allowed to allow the citizens to eat meat. Yes. And then we learn in 26 that everyone should be interested in others' welfare, otherwise they are condemned by the Lord. So it's quite interesting that service to community and to others, is a basic requirement of the laws of God. And subsequently, if the governments would become educated in the principle of ruling religiously, then there would be no end of glories for the head and for the people. In 27, Srila Prabhupada in the purport explains that the presence of Sankarshan is the reason why there is power of gravity, as understood by the scientist. So just sharing with you some key things that Prabhupada is mentioning. If we then move to 29 to 33, please. Anybody?
I'll go, Prabhuji.
Please, Prabhu.
Text 29. The planet Earth spoke, "My dear Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, you are transcendental in your position, and by your material energy, you have expanded yourself in various forms and species of life through the interaction of the three modes of material nature. Unlike some other masters, you always remain in your transcendental position and are not affected by the material creation, which is subject to different material interactions. Consequently, you are not bewildered by material activities." Text 30. The planet Earth continued, "My dear Lord, you are the complete conductor of the material creation. You have created this cosmic manifestation and the three material qualities, and therefore you have created me, the planet Earth, the resting place of all living entities. Yet you are always fully independent, my Lord. Now that you are present before me and ready to kill me with your weapons, let me know where I should go to take shelter, and tell me who can give me protection." Text 31. In the beginning of creation, you created all these moving and non-moving living entities by your inconceivable energy. Through this very same energy, You are now prepared to protect the living entities. Indeed, you are the supreme protector of religious principles. Why are you so anxious to kill me, even though I am in the form of a cow? Text 32. My dear Lord, although you are one, by your inconceivable potencies, you have expanded yourself in many forms. Through the agency of Brahma, you have created this universe. You are therefore directly the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those who are not sufficiently experienced cannot understand your transcendental activities because these persons are covered by your illusionary energy. Text 33. My dear Lord, by your own potencies, you are the original cause of the material elements, the performing instruments, the senses, the workers of the senses, the controlling demigods, the intelligence, and the ego, as well as everything else. By your energy, you manifest this entire cosmic creation, maintain it and dissolve it. Through your energy alone, everything is sometimes manifest and sometimes not manifest. You are therefore the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. I hope you're well, Anthony Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Yes, thank you, Prabhuji. Haribol.
Nice to hear from you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So the verse 30 is a really nice, is a symptom of full surrender before the Lord. So that verse is really nice. That the planet Earth, yes, fully surrenders to take shelter of Pṛthu Mahārāja. Humility. In verse 32, Prabhupada, he mentions there that without grace, we cannot understand how the Supreme Lord acts through his different energies. Nothing happens by chance. There is always a definite plan behind all action. One who is experienced and is favored by the Lord can understand that everything is being done according to the Lord's supreme plan. So sometimes, we're thinking that how are things happening in this world? And sometimes we're also considering how are things happening to us. But we should understand that everything is going on by the energies of the Lord, and subsequently, nothing is happening by chance. This should make us more peaceful, that all arrangements are made by the Supreme Lord, and we just need to follow that. In verse 33, Srila Prabhupada, he gives a really nice way to understand how his energy works. So how Prabhupada explains that he gives an analogy that a electromechanical system automatically works by a person pressing a button. So in a manufacturing plant, simply by switching a button, that so many processes are taking place. So for instance, if you're in a bottle filling plant, you will see that automatically by pressing the button, the bottles will start to become filled and sealed. And that happens by just one touch of a button. Similarly, Prabhupada says that the Lord pushes the button of creation and everything automatically takes place. I thought that was a very nice analogy. So we will now move to the next chapter. Prabhuji, how am I doing for time?
We usually go on till 9:30 of 9. So
Yes. So if we go to 18, And after that, there's a few verses I'll jump to right at the end of all the chapters, which show the benedictions of reading these beautiful chapters.
Yeah, maybe you can take another 10 minutes, if that's okay.
Yes, that's probably. I recognize it's a lot to get through.
Yeah, but if you can kindly take us to the essence in the given time. Thank you. I know these are quite big chapters, very difficult to cover.
That's right.
In one and a half hour, yeah.
Yes, and the thing is, Prabhupada, he writes huge purports in every verse.
Yes.
So, but the thing is, these chapters are so important, Prabhus. Please read these verses from Prabhupada. It's so great.
Yeah. Sure, definitely.
So if I so chapter 18 is basically covering how Pṛthu Mahārāja becomes pleased with Mother Earth. She actually directs Pṛthu Mahārāja how to get the best out of her, and then certain personalities, they play the role of a cow from which the needs of the people and the universe in general, actually the whole universe, is extracted. So all the needs for the different living entities is provided. Okay, so some of you can carry on reading some of these, but as I try and take you through the key points. So it's explained that to stop the current bewilderment of people, we have to follow the Shruti and Smriti to live our lives properly, to ensure a profitable next life. So currently people are thinking that this is only one life, but they should understand that there are lives to come, and therefore one should follow religious and spiritual principles. By following the directions of liberated persons is the only way to make society happy. That's in verse 4. Liberated persons are infallible, and conditioned souls are hampered by the 4 defects. Sure to make a mistake, is always illusioned, a tendency to cheat, and imperfect senses. So one cannot follow the path of conditioned souls because there are these 4 defects. Grains are not produced by mechanical means. So in verse 8, okay, Srila Prabhupada, he very clearly states that without yagyas, it is not possible to produce grains from the earth. It is not done by tractors or machines, but it is done by pleasing the personality of Mother Earth, through pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In verse 9 and 10, Prabhupada nicely explains that for a cow to produce ample milk, she needs a calf. And by affection to the calf, ample milk is produced. And it says similarly, yes, for Krishna to give his blessings, that there needs to be Krishna conscious devotees in society. Hare Krishna. So it is so important for the world to become a better place and to have all necessities, that there must be, devotees of Krishna. Food for the mind and ear is essential for humanity to be happy, both materially and spiritually. So 20 to 32 is all about King Pṛthu making provisions through certain personalities to give the requirements for the citizens. And then that then completes chapter 18. And I will now go to the last verses of all the chapters. To give you encouragement. So in 23, in the last verses, so the says the great sage Maitreya continued, "My dear Vidor, I have as far as possible spoken the narrations about Pṛthu Mahārāja, which enrich one's devotional attitude. Whoever takes advantage of these benefits also goes back home, back to Godhead, like Mahārāja Pṛthu." The word Sarvayat mentioned in a previous verse indicates that one should not only read for one himself, but should also induce others to read and hear. That is called preaching. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommended this practice. Yari Dekha Tarikara Krishna Upadesh. Whomever you meet, simply talk with him about the instructions given by Krishna or tell him about the narrations about Krishna. Pṛthu Mahārāja's history of devotional service is as potent as narrations about the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should not make distinction between the pastimes of the Lord and the activities of Pṛthu Mahārāja, and wherever it is possible, a devotee should attempt to induce others to hear about Pṛthu Mahārāja. One should not only read of his pastime for one's own benefit, but should induce others to read and hear about them also. In this way, everyone can be benefited. The final verse. Whoever with great reverence and adoration regularly reads, chants, and describes the history of Mahārāja Pṛthu's activities will certainly increase unflinching faith and attraction to the lotus feet of the Lord. The Lord's lotus feet are the boat by which one can cross the ocean of nescience. And Prabhupada has the following purport. The word Bhava Sindhu Potapadi is significant in this verse. The lotus feet of the Lord are known as Mahatpadam. This means that the total source of material existence rests on the lotus feet of the Lord, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 10:8. Aham Sarvasya Prabha. Everything is emanating from him. This cosmic manifestation, which is compared to an ocean of nescience, is also resting on the lotus feet of the Lord. As such, this great ocean of nescience is minimized by a person who is a pure devotee. One who has taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord need not cross over the ocean, for he has already crossed it by virtue of his position at the Lord's lotus feet. By hearing and chanting of the glories of the Lord, or the Lord's devotee, one can become firmly fixed in the service of the lotus feet of the Lord. This position can also be achieved very easily by narrating the history of the life of Pṛthu Mahārāja regularly, every day. The word Vimukta Sangha is also significant in this connection. Because we associate with the three qualities of material nature, our position in this material world is full of danger. But when we engage in devotional service of the Lord by the process of Shravanam Kirtanam, we immediately become Vimukta Sangha, or liberated. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for being patient and giving me the opportunity to speak. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Vranlal Prabhu. Thank you so much for the wonderful session. I know that you have put a lot of effort in preparing this. Unfortunately, we ran short of time. That's what happens. Yes, but these sessions are to give devotees some kind of inspiration, encouragement. So they go home and read more in more about the pastime of the Lord. Thank you so much. Anybody has any questions or any comments to Ranlal Prabhu? I thoroughly enjoyed this session. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Thank you.
So devotees are, I think,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yeah. So I always thought that Lord Brahma created everything, And then when I heard the lecture today by yourself, that it was King Pṛthu who created also different things. So that's a sort of a confusion.
Sorry, Mataji, I couldn't hear the question.
Sorry. So I always thought that Lord Brahma was under the instructions of Lord Krishna, Lord Brahma is the creator.
Yes.
Of everything. But now today I read that King Pṛthu is the creator.
King Pṛthu was a incarnation of the Lord's governing force. And subsequently, he was self-sufficient. Yeah, he didn't need to rely on anybody else. Even if the Mother Earth, it wouldn't produce the requirements, he could do it himself. Mother Earth, she was saying to him that, if you was to destroy me, then you'd have nowhere to put your feet. But he says to her that I'm independent, I don't need that. I'm self-sufficient. So Lord Brahma, yes, he has created the creation. But King Pṛthu, he's actually showing exemplary how a person should lead a nation or a state or take any position in leadership, what the consciousness should be, and what the behavior should be. So he's not taking over from Lord Brahma. Yeah, the creation is still there. But Pṛthu Mahārāja, it came because King Vina was such a cruel person and the citizens needed a good leader. And his appearance demonstrates that such a good leader, what he can do for the people. And he was fully focused on making sure that the people followed religious principles so that they could all go back to Godhead. And he was very rigid about that because he wanted to do them a favor and give them a benediction. And that's the role of leadership. Does that make sense, Mataji?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Hare Krishna Prabhu.
So, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Ranlal Prabhu, that King Pṛthu is an incarnation of the ruling force of the Lord.
Yes.
Yes. So any leader who wants to be a good leader must read King Pṛthu's story in detail.
Yeah.
Every single word. I've attended several leadership classes in ISKCON and talks also. They focus on King Pṛthu's story.
Okay.
What an exemplary leader King Pṛthu was. It's amazing. We couldn't unfortunately cover so many things. Unfortunately, we had to skip. But I would urge and request the devotees, please go and read all of these wonderful things so that we can see, how a leader should be, and we can learn from that wonderful pastime. So thank you, Ranlal Prabhu, once again for that. And also I would like to thank all the devotees for taking time to attend. ISKCON Manchester is trying, it's best to, keep going, keep having these classes. We have Friday, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and once a month, Saturday, we are having the Srimad Bhagavatam, and on regular Sundays, we are having preaching related programs. So please, do take advantage. Here, Prabhupada was saying one of the purports that not only one should read and hear himself, but he should encourage others to do so.
Yeah.
It is very important that we encourage others to read and hear as well. All these programs are actually meant for that, to encourage others to hear more, and when we hear more, then we can read more as well, isn't it? Now, I feel like reading entire fourth canto now, about Pṛthu Mahārāja. So it really inspired me to go and read many sections, and which I will do in due course. So please do take advantage. Humbly, I'm requesting all the devotees, do take advantage of these classes. Please do attend and be part of any Sangha group. Sometimes if you are on your own and it's difficult to read and study and practice devotional service. That's why Prabhupada created this, society. In a Sangha, in a society, it becomes easier for us to practice our devotional service. If we are on our own, Maya can easily influence us. But if you are part of a Sangha, then it becomes easier, much easier. That's why Prabhupada created societies.
Yes.
So please, I request that be part of any of the groups, and then regularly read and hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, so with that, I would like to thank once again Brian Lal Prabhu for his wonderful contribution this morning, and also like to thank all the devotees for taking advantage of it. So we have this session by Shubhavilas Prabhu starting today. It's entitled Achiever's Toolkit. So he'll be narrating several pastimes and life lessons from Vedic literature. So the session will start shortly, but if you're still interested, if you're not registered, please do so. Yeah, it will be very, very, very wonderful. Tomorrow, Sunday, we have a special class because it is the disappearance day of Shri Srivas Pandit. So class will be given by Radhamohan Prabhu. So that will be tomorrow. Okay, devotees, thank you very much. And Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. His Grace Brian Lal Prabhu ki jai.
Jai.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Nitai
Jai.
Gaura Premanandi. Hari Hari
Hari
Bol.
Hari
Panchakalpa
Bol.
Tarupasya Kupa Sindhu Devata Patita Nam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Vaishnav Thakur ki jai.
Jai. Srila
All
Prabhupada.
glories to
Hari
devotees.
Bol.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Hare
Thank you very much,
Krishna.
Prabhu, for the opportunity. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. Hare Krishna.